Yo, what's up guys, Ghost here, and today I wanted to help those of you out there who have a difficult time dealing with helicopters. So here are 6 ways to deal with helicopters effectively. I'm well aware that the opinion on helicopters is that they are overpowered, and if there's a skilled pilot in the sky, there's simply nothing you can do to stop them. So I'm going to cover all the effective methods I found for dealing with enemy helicopters, ranging from the easiest methods all the way to the more skill-based ones that can one-shot them right out of the sky. Before we begin though, if you do enjoy the Battlefield content, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for the massive support recently. You are absolutely killing it. So I've wanted to make this video for a while now for a number of reasons. First and foremost, to help those of you who do struggle with this and share my own methods of how I like to deal with those pesky farmers in the sky. Secondly, there are a bunch of new players who have recently jumped into Battlefield 2042 after seeing the improvements to the game or from PlayStation Plus, and they might be feeling a little bit farmed by now. And thirdly, whether it be on my channel here on YouTube or over on Reddit or Twitter, I frequently see posts saying, why are the helicopters so overpowered? How can DICE justify a vehicle being capable of going 100-0? You know, DICE, please nerf the helicopters and buff the AA missiles. So hopefully some of this advice will help those players out when they're dealing with a skilled pilot. So with all of that in mind, let's begin here. So my first option here is to use the AA Wildcat loadout. This is not only extremely effective, but also relatively easy for new players. The starting loadout on the Wildcat already has the AA cannons and the AA missiles, so you don't even need to unlock anything. Now, the mistake most players make whilst using this vehicle is that they just sit in the spawn with it, or, you know, in general, trying to shoot at vehicles that are much too far away. Now, you will still get hit markers sometimes at those long ranges, making players believe they are in fact within range. However, the fall off damage of the cannons is pretty steep, so as the target gets further away, they will do less damage. Not only that, but they have a decent amount of spread as well, so at long ranges, you will really only do chip damage. So don't be that person who gives away your location when you're not even within effective range. The AA cannons coming across the map are very obvious to a heli pilot, and that Nightbird is going to spot you, and then they're going to encircle you, blasting you with AGMs faster than you can turn your turret. Now, you can use the AA missiles as well, of course. If you see the helicopter flare and you have a shot, you can lock them very fast and fire away, but don't expect to necessarily get a kill with these missiles. Most good pilots will not fall prey to AA missiles of any kind, and far too many players rely on them over the cannons, which are the real firepower of this vehicle. Now, moving on, method number 2 is to use your team's stealth jet with radar missiles and 25mm cannons. This one will be a little bit of an investment. You do start off with the 25mm cannons, but you will need to unlock the radar missiles, although you can easily farm the kills for this in solo play against AI. Now, if you have no idea how to fly the jet, I suggest checking out my guide on that here. But long story short, the radar missiles are incredibly good and easy to use. Instead of having to acquire a lock-on before you fire, you simply fire them in the general direction of the vehicle and they will lock themselves on once close. Now, if you wait until the very last second to fire them, this will actually give the pilot so little time to react and hit his flares before the impact that much of the time, even if they flare, the missile will hit anyway. And then of course you've got the 25mm cannons, which absolutely rip through helicopters like a hot knife through butter. Now, the next method is to use your team's TOR tank, aka the railgun tank. I've recently made a video on this about how overpowered this tank is. So honestly, this would probably be my go-to easy, cheap method to down any air vehicle in the game. It's just maybe not quite as easy as using a Wildcat. So for this, you definitely want to unlock the upgraded Maul cannon. It will one-shot any air vehicle with the exception of the transport helicopters, and even they only require 2 shots. So the best tactic here is to set up camp on a slight incline so you can aim into the air, and then deploy siege mode so you can move the turret more whilst charging. There really isn't that much to this. The railgun tank has no fall off whatsoever, and it is almost a hit scan weapon, so you don't have to lead your target barely at all, even when going for super long range shots. The only element of skill to this vehicle really is that it has a charge up time before you can shoot, and whilst you're charging, the turret turn speed will be significantly reduced. So you do have to somewhat predict where the target is going, or where it's going to be when you fire that shot, but the major advantage you have here is that you can always cancel your charge. So if you're completely off with your shot, or the heli makes an unexpected change in direction, you can let go of fire and simply recharge. Now the trick here, conversely in fact to sniping helis in a regular tank, is that the longer the range, the easier it's gonna be, and that's because you won't have to make as big of a correction on your screen to cover the distance that the enemy vehicle is moving if you're at a longer range than if the vehicle was much closer to you. Okay, next up let's talk about some of the more difficult but very effective options, starting with Liz's missiles. Now these missiles have seen a bit of a nerf in Season 4, they're not nearly as nimble as they used to be, and they don't have the same range anymore, but they are far from useless. A well-placed missile will one-shot a Nightbird or a stealth heli, and they can do 85% damage to an attack helicopter, and this is really their intended role. You can snipe a transport or a tank if it's on low health, but they only do big damage to the lighter helicopters. Now since they aren't as agile as they used to be, the trick to using these missiles is predicting where your target is going to be, just like you would with an M5 recoilless, and then boosting it. Boosting the missile is going to give the pilot way less of a chance to react if you're on target, and I can promise you guys, if you do not boost the missile, you have no chance of hitting any skilled pilot. They will hear the sound warning way before you get close enough. Now if you guys want some more in-depth tips on how to thread the needle, I do have a guide on this as well, so feel free to check that out. But a great tip that has always helped me is to concentrate your gaze on the target and not the crosshair. Don't look at the center of your screen. So if you're going for a difficult shot where the target is moving from left to right or right to left across your screen, what you want to do is keep that target in exactly the same place on your TV or monitor the whole time, and your missile should connect. I know this sounds kind of weird, but if you go and watch videos of anybody doing TV missiles, whether it's in 2042 or it's in BF4 or BF3, you will notice if you look at the position of the target on your monitor that it stays in the exact same position until the missile finally connects. So the next method is to use your own team's helicopter to hunt down theirs. Now you've got a couple of choices here. An attack helicopter, if you have a gunner or even a stealth helicopter, can be extremely effective and absolutely demolish, let's say, a Nightbird in the blink of an eye. But personally, I like to take the Nightbird myself. The cannons on this heli absolutely shred lightly armored vehicles like the enemy Nightbird. But this is also a question of, who is the better pilot? If the enemy heli pilot is really skilled and you know that they're far better than you are, then, unless you catch him really off guard, you aren't likely to win that one-on-one. So I would only recommend this method if the enemy pilot isn't very good or you feel confident in your own skills. Of course, if you wish to improve at flying helicopters, go and check out this video. And finally, here we have the M5 launcher. Now this is definitely the hardest method of the bunch. If you've used this thing before, you'll know that connecting one with a Nightbird isn't easy. However, they give the pilot absolutely no warning. They're incredibly fast, so if you see one coming, it's probably too late, and of course, it's always a one-shot. Now I probably wouldn't go and try to hunt down the helicopter with this thing, because you're likely to die to some infantry whilst you're trying to get into a good firing position, but simply playing as an engineer and carrying one is a great defense against helicopters like the Nightbird. You might think that shooting one down is insanely difficult, especially if you're a new player, but if that Nightbird gets in a little bit too close, all of a sudden he's all up in your face, that shot becomes a hell of a lot easier. Now with all of these methods, you probably noticed that I didn't mention the main infantry anti-air weapon in the game, the AA launcher, and the reason for that is that contrary to what most players believe, this gadget is not designed to get you kills unless you're dealing with an amateur pilot. Believe me, no skilled helicopter pilot is going to die to an AA missile or a javelin. They're going to pop flares, or they're going to line of sight the lock-on once you fire, and it'll smash into some cover. Now, AA missiles are effective, however, as area of denial weapons. You know, if you're up in the air as a helicopter pilot in a 1v1 with the enemy heli, and you get locked on, that is incredibly annoying. If you run from the heli's going to kill you. But if you don't run from the heli, then you're going to die to lock-ons once your flares run out. Or even at the very least, the helicopter is going to have to retreat and take cover while his flares recharge. The problem is that his flares recharge endlessly, whilst your AA missiles don't. So if you are going to use AA missiles, you really need to pick the right moment. Furthermore, even if you do hit the heli, it's not going to one-shot anything. So, you know, for me, I would say that AA missiles are only effective if a lot of people on your team are using them and you're just absolutely spamming the crap out of the enemy helicopter. That can certainly be effective, but if you're the only one, it's not really going to do too much. Now, if you're completely new to the game and that's the only thing you can use, you know, I completely understand that. Definitely go for it in that case. It's going to be better than nothing, but this, at least in my eyes, is not a proper solution. So I do hope some of you guys find this useful. Hopefully you learn about a new counter, or at least an area of your gameplay that you can improve on and that you want to work on next. Now, if you missed my last video, you should go and watch it because, you know, I need views, man. And subscribers too. So if you found this useful, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.